Now on the CTV News at 5, a Canadian sports organization says it will not host major events in Alberta. Plus, the holiday hazards to watch out for. And reviving Rocky Mountain history.
It has been used for literally almost 100 years.
New life for a national park site.
Telling your stories. CTV News Lethbridge with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Skate Canada will no longer host events in Alberta due to the province's new sports gender law. Skate Canada says it won't host national or international events here in Alberta due to a provincial law restricting transgender athletes from participating in female-only sports. The organization says its decision was made after assessing Alberta's Fairness and Safety in Sport Act, which took effect in September. Skate Canada says it's unable to host events in the province while maintaining its standards for safety and inclusivity. It says Alberta athletes will still be able to participate in Skate Canada programming and competitions. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's office says its rules are designed to keep girls safe and says that Skate Canada will someday be sorry. We'll have more on this story coming up at 6. Meanwhile, the province is moving forward with increasing the speed limit on some rural roads to 120 kilometers an hour. An online survey on the government's website found 68% of respondents supported increasing highway speed limits from 110 to 120 kilometers an hour. As a result, the province says it will launch a controlled mini trial of the increased limit on select rural divided highways next year. The survey also found 90% support lane restrictions for commercial truckers on major highways. The city of Lethbridge says repairs to the Whoop-Up Drive Bridge are now fully complete. As work continues for upgrades at the water treatment plant, construction vehicles will continue to use the emergency access road to Butterill Bottom Park off eastbound Whoop-Up Drive. Now, those using the mountain bike park are asked to use extreme caution near the access road and avoid parking along that road. Repair work on the bridge began back in August following an incident where a semi-truck hauling a large piece of machinery hit 4 of 6 girders underneath. Last week, the city implemented a permanent speed limit of 70 kilometers per hour on Whoop-Up Drive. Some immigration experts are warning Canadians to avoid traveling to the United States. That is, unless they have to, as data from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement show more Canadians are being detained due to changes to U.S. immigration policies. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
This is North America's busiest border crossing, the Ambassador Bridge, which connects Windsor and Detroit. It's where Greg Williams was detained by U.S. Border Patrol last month as he tried to enter the United States with his wife and dad.
And then it was turn the car off, hands on the dash, and within seconds there were 15 agents surrounding the car.
Williams says he was handcuffed and taken into a small room inside the nearby building. He was photographed and fingerprinted before ever knowing why he was being detained.
I wasn't worrying about being sent to some, Ecuadorian supermax, which is very much white privilege of me, that it's like I don't have to worry about those things, but that's also like nobody should.
Turns out there's another Greg Williams with some sort of a record that prompted the detention of this Greg Williams, an Ontario musician.
This happened because I have the same name, and that's crazy.
Williams was released after a couple of hours, but his story highlights the growing number of Canadians being caught up in the immigration crackdown underway south of the border. More than 200 Canadians have spent time in ICE custody at some point since January, compared with 137 detained in 2024. Records show at least 6 children were among those detained. While a handful of Canadians had felony convictions or other criminal records, the vast majority were picked up for visa violations or less serious infractions, which experts say marks a major shift in policy.
For the most part, from what I've seen, we're looking at very minor criminal infractions, but sufficient to attract the radar of U.S. enforcement.
Experts say in the past, Canadians would have been denied entry into the United States or sent back to Canada, but are being detained more frequently. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Lethbridge City Council's committee meeting and governance structure, it could be changing in the new year. Council voted 7-2 in favor of potentially dissolving its standing policy committee governance model, with 2 exceptions. at this time. Now, the Audit SPC and Economic and Finance SPC would remain in the proposal. The Community Issues Committee would replace the SPCs. The primary intent is designed to provide focused oversight, policy review, and recommendations. The CIC model would include all councillors and the mayor. As we approach the new year, the City of Lethbridge is reminding residents that if they prepay their property taxes in January and February, they will get a discount off their bill. The discount will be the equivalent to earning interest at 1.5% per year from the date of payment to June of 2026. Residents can pay their taxes online at their financial institution, in person at City Hall, or by mail. The city says the earlier prepayments are made, the greater the credit applied to the discount is. The City of Lethbridge is once again asking residents to not feed wildlife or waterfowl. The city's Parks Department has received several reports of dead birds at Henderson Lake this year as a result of a large amount of bird seed on the ground. The city says food from humans does more harm than good to wildlife and waterfowl as it decreases their natural defense instincts and contributes to overcrowding. The city says the natural habitats for wildlife provide an ample food source for them, and food left by humans lacks nutritional value. Well, our Danielle Savoni is at Trail Appliances in Calgary, home of CTV's Toy Mountain, which supports Fear is Not Love, an organization that helps anyone impacted by domestic violence and abuse in Alberta, connecting people to shelter, counseling, and resources.
Yes, that's right, Jackie. I think the thing here behind me, I'm not sure if you could see all the toys, but this is basically where, with nearly 30 drop-off locations, this is the place where all the toys are collected, and the pile is getting higher and higher, which is absolutely fantastic because the organization Fear is Not Love uses these toys at shelters year-round. And you can make a donation at home. Just go online to ctvcalgary.ca. All right, let's quickly check out the forecast here because there's a lot to talk about, and the number one thing to look at over the next 24 hours is the wind. It's gusty now, up to 90 kilometers per hour in many communities in southern Alberta, and we're looking at this intensifying up to 120 kilometers per hour. Plus, we're going to add some snow to this, so we're looking at blowing snow and reduced visibility, very tricky driving conditions. We'll talk more about this coming up. Jackie.
All right, thanks, Danielle. Well, as the holidays fast approach and many gather, the potential for fire or accidents rise. Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services is reminding residents to take simple steps to prevent a fire this Christmas. Carson Marsouk reports.
It's one of the most common areas where firefighters find fires during the holiday season, the kitchen.
We do see an up in fires usually this time of year, and there's always just things that people can do to make sure that they do their best to try to mitigate these risks.
To start, he says decorations can be a real hazard, including frayed wires and real Christmas trees.
You don't want to put all your decorations up and then you're blocking exits. You're blocking any heat sources. You're using extension cords all over your home. Try to use power bars as best you can.
He says don't use real candles to decorate your Christmas tree, and don't leave decorations and trees plugged in 24/7.
The lights on your trees, double check. If you had them a long time, make sure the wires aren't frayed. Make sure anything like that is not damaged. When it comes to candles or anything, you want to make sure normally you have them to 3 feet or 1 meter away from anything combustible.
When preparing dinner, the fire department says to not wear loose clothing and don't leave the stove.
You want to make sure your oven is clean. Don't leave the home when you're cooking. Don't leave stuff on the stove while you're entertaining people in the house and you forget about it and go in.
And so far this year, he says calls for fires have increased.
For fire investigations this year, we are plus of 50 for this year for the City of Lethbridge, which in previous years, we've averaged about 30 investigations a year. And as of today, we are on the north side of 50.
Whether you celebrate at home or away, LFES says the biggest thing you can do is pay attention to your surroundings. Carson Marsouk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
The Lethbridge Senior Citizens Organization is getting ready for its 56th annual free Christmas dinner next week. Every year, the LSCO opens up on Christmas Day to provide a free meal for those in the community. The organization is preparing to serve 1,000 people this year. While it costs about $12,000 to put the dinner on, the LSCO says being a space for people to gather, connect, and celebrate the holidays is worth it.
I think there's a misconception that because it's a senior center that the folks who are invited are only seniors, but that's not true. It's anybody in the community who maybe can't afford a meal for themselves and their families, or maybe they don't have families who they can share a meal with. So we're not checking income at the door or any need. Anybody who feels the need for a little extra Christmas spirit can come to the organization.
The LSCO will also be providing first responders on duty with a Christmas dinner to thank them for their service. A boarded-up backcountry lodge in Yoho National Park will once again attract guests from around the world. Is expected to reopen for tourism. Parks Canada has just chosen a new operator for Twin Falls Chalet. Alicia Fieldberg explains the plans for the site.
A 9-kilometer hike in Yoho National Park leads you to this National Historic Site, which has been boarded up for 5 years, but now has a new operator and is expected to reopen for tourism.
The Twin Falls is a beautiful little spot. Absolutely excited to be a part of its future.
Canadian Pacific Railway built Twin Falls Chalet in 1908 as a hiking destination for rail travelers. Parks Canada owns it but leases it to operators for a cut of the profits. Since 1962, Fran Drummond had been running it as a tea house, cooking meals and hosting overnight guests with no electricity or plumbing. She was revered for her passion and dedication, but Parks said she was no longer meeting the terms of the agreement, so ended it in 2019.
She's a very important part of the history of the park and history of the tea house. We got to a point where she was no longer able to continue and meet the requirements of a license of occupation. And that's when we transitioned to seeking a new operator.
Parks wanted it to continue operating as a tea house, but the new group chosen to run it realized that wouldn't be feasible.
Foot traffic is around 50 people per day, which does not provide enough opportunity or traffic for enough revenue to operate it.
Instead, Alpine Club of Canada is now preparing to offer it to visitors as a hut. That means no staff and guests bring their own food and bedding.
You need to collect your water and treat it to make sure you can drink it. You prepare your own food, and everyone helps clean and take care of the facility.
The club also plans to install solar power and find a way to commemorate the chalet's history.
Have the opportunity to not only experience the wilderness, experience the nature, but at the same time, walk into a piece of Canadian history. That is the type of experience that we know a lot of visitors really cherish.
Alpine Club of Canada operates 2 other National Historic Sites in Yoho National Park and says since Twin Falls sits between them, it will give guests a unique opportunity.
It's going to create our first hut-to-hut traverse experience.
The goal is to open for guests in August of 2027. Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Calgary.
Danielle is back with your 5-day forecast right after this break, and we look at some creative ways of curbing your kids' screen time over the holidays.
All right, we have a lot of active weather to talk about. Snow and blowing snow, excessive wind gusts. And when I say excessive wind gusts, it could get to 130 kilometers per hour in some localized areas. All right, let's start with the temperatures. Because of the winds right now and the gustier conditions, this is why we've been so warm for the past couple of days, as you know. 5 degrees is the temperature in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat and Brooks, 6 in Milk River and 2 in Pincher Creek. All right, let's talk about what the gusts we had so far in the far south. 91 kilometers per hour is what we maxed out so far at Pincher Creek, 72 in Lethbridge, and just over 90 in Medicine Hat. This is going to intensify in many communities, and this is why Environment Canada has issued wind warnings for much of the south. So Medicine Hat, Brooks, and all south, even though it looks yellow on this map, there is a wind warning in place. 90 kilometer per hour gusts are possible further off to the east in these areas. When you look at where it turns orange though, basically as soon as we get over to closer to the Lethbridge area and over to Pincher Creek, this corridor, we're looking at gusts 120, even 130 kilometers per hour possible tonight and through parts of tomorrow. This is also combined with some snowfall at times. Now when we're looking at the windiest gusts will likely be tomorrow morning. All right, snowfall, excessive amounts, 15 to 25 centimeters for higher elevations. So closer to the BC border is where we're looking at that kind of accumulation. We'll talk snowfall totals for other areas in just a second here. But as you can see by satellite and radar, it doesn't look that intense coming our way, but we are looking at consistent moisture for the mountains. That's where we're going to see most of our snowfall. So as I advance this through tonight and through tomorrow, you'll notice that it's consistently snowing in the mountains over the next 12 to almost 24 hours. We'll get a little bit of this in Lethbridge, for example, by Wednesday afternoon. That's when we're looking at it creeping mainly into Lethbridge. It'll likely start as some freezing rain or even some rain and switching over to some snowfall, and temperatures will plummet throughout the day rather than increase. So it's quite a day tomorrow. Windy in the morning, still windy in the afternoon, but not as intense. And then in the afternoon, we get the snow. Potentially kicking off with freezing rain, and because it will still be windy enough, it will be blowing snow and reduce visibility. So this is a day that if you don't have to travel out there on the roads, you should avoid it. All right, 3 centimeters is most likely in Lethbridge for tomorrow, 7 centimeters in Milk River, 4 in Taber, and again closer to the border, the BC border, just to basically the west of Pincher Creek. 15 centimeters is certainly likely. East Kootenay area, 5 to 10 millimeters of rain tonight, gusts 70 kilometers per hour with a high of 0 for tomorrow. Overnight tonight, 15 centimeters of snow in the Crozes Pass area, higher elevations, and 120 kilometer per hour gusts possible tomorrow, -2. We'll have temperatures plummet throughout the day. Medicine Hat freezing rain overnight tonight, early tomorrow morning, gusts 100 kilometers per hour possible tomorrow. -13 is what we'll plummet to in the afternoon. So we'll start off at 0 in the morning, dip down to -13. Lethbridge, same idea, 0 in the morning, freezing rain likely, switching over to snow, and then -11 by the afternoon. The snow will be heavy at times, and in the morning, gusts are looking at 120 kilometers per hour. Then we get to +1 on Thursday, and then we dip down to -12 again on Friday, and it will be a long stretch of cold weather that will last through the weekend.
A new study finds kids who spend excessive time on devices are at higher risk for developing problems like anxiety, even aggression later in life. And now with the holiday season arriving, parents are getting creative on how to get their kids to look up from their screens. ABC's Janai Norman reports.
This holiday season, families are gathering together, but they may have to share quality time with tablets, phones, and video games. It's an issue even Woody and Buzz in the upcoming Toy Story 5 have to contend with.
Hi there, I'm Lilypad. Let's play!
Our adolescent years are such high impact years for brain development. The idea that technology can be interrupting that development is really concerning to me.
Now, adults across the country are finding creative ways to solve the issue, from some reportedly spending as much as $8,000 on camps to detox kids from their devices, to others tackling the problem themselves.
Turn the screens off. Right, turn them off.
Former NFL cornerback Chimdi Chekwa and his wife Sia are encouraging more outdoor play for their kids, but in the cold winter months, keeping kids busy can be a challenge.
They find plenty of things to do, and then we like to do things together. Like they love to dance, so we'll play music and dance around the house, or they love to play games. They're really competitive in that nature.
And for many, like San Francisco mom Susan Rosenthal, packing the calendar for her daughter can feel like a full-time job.
We had to schedule every minute of the day because, or else she would be bored and there will be consequences for us.
Rosenthal partnered with other parents to create the Dex Learning Camera, a device which aims to teach kids new languages, hoping to emphasize learning as well as play, in part to cut down on excess screen time.
For me, the peace of mind that she's doing something that I feel is more educational and is different and more interactive than, what is currently screen time.
Ultimately, increased screen time is here to stay, but experts say it's all about moderation and creating a plan, like establishing screen-free times, like during meals or before bed, and encouraging offline activity like arts and crafts, even imaginative play.
Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, an Australian runner has rewritten the record books at the bottom of the world. The Lethbridge Hurricanes will play their final game before the Christmas break tonight as they welcome the Edmonton Oil Kings to the visitlethbridge.com arena. Now, the Canes enter tonight's game on a 4-game losing skid after suffering a 5-1 defeat to the Prince Albert Raiders Saturday. As for the Oil Kings, they enter on a 2-game losing streak after dropping a 4-2 loss to the Brandon Wheat Kings Sunday. Tonight is the third of 8 meetings between the two teams. Puck drop is set for 7 o'clock. 3 players from the Brooks Bandits will suit up for Team Latvia at the upcoming World Junior Hockey Championship later this month. This is the second consecutive year the trio have earned selection to the national team. Latvia opens its tournament with a round-robin matchup against Team Canada December 27th. Last year, Latvia finished 4th in the championship, 1 spot behind Canada. The World Juniors gets underway December 26th in Minnesota. The Edmonton Oilers are in Pittsburgh tonight to play the Penguins, just days after the team swapped starting goaltenders. It'll be the first time in Tristan Jarry in the opposing dressing room there.
It's obviously going to be a lot of emotions. It's still very fresh, and it'll be weird to put on a different jersey in that rink.
We have not seen or heard from former Lethbridge Hurricane Stuart Skinner since his victory for the Oilers against Detroit on Thursday. He was traded with Brett Kulak the next morning. They did not play with the Penguins on the weekend. The team says there were some issues with their work visas. Both are now clear to play, though. At this point, we don't know if he will be starting in goal for Pittsburgh against the Oilers tonight. An Australian runner has made history at the bottom of the world.
It's so hard. Wow. Oh my God, that is unlike anything I've ever done. I've done marathons before, but that is so tough.
Kathleen Drysdale is the first female champion in the 20 years of the Antarctic Ice Marathon. All of the runners braved strong winds and temperatures around minus 15 degrees Celsius during the run. Drysdale finished in 3 hours, 48 minutes, and 43 seconds. The Antarctic Ice Marathon is the world's southernmost marathon. It takes place at the Union Glacier, about 965 kilometers away from the South Pole. Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, we'll tell you about a Portuguese DJ priest when we come back. A Portuguese priest is getting a lot of attention for getting out of the church and into the clubs. Father Guilherme Peixoto is also a DJ, filling venues from Colombia to Mexico with electronic beats layered with spiritual messages. His unlikely rise to fame began 20 years ago when he launched a parish bar to help pay his church debts. And then he enrolled in DJ classes. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.